been dealing with the pandemic. We've been dealing with, being quarantined and being physically distant from people, even our loved ones. People were ready to get out of the house and come back to campus, and then you're coming back to campus at a time where it's different. Again, we're wearing masks, we're sitting like miles away from each other right now, and then we have a presidential election that's coming up. And so it's like this perfect storm that's being created on campus. This is the time that we're facing, and everyone is talking about voting and voting and voting, but it goes beyond just voting, right? Understanding the why, understanding the role and the voice that specifically college students have. What do you all think, right? Like you're college students right now, like you're here on campus, you're hearing all of the talk about the upcoming election. Like where are you at right now?
There was a lot of energy on social media surrounding things President Trump would say, what he endorsed compared to Biden. A lot of students felt as if they had to settle, make the choice, the right choice for America's future. And as we continue moving forward, especially now being on ground, a lot of students have maintained that energy, it seems, and really want to push out that vote.
Like, do you feel like you're informed? Do you feel like, we need to be doing more to educate?
I mean, personally, I'm kind of scared for this election because I've never had to navigate after an election on a college campus. Like high school, when President Trump was elected, there was a different energy from the time that he was to like the end of my high school experience. It was just, things were going on in my school that wouldn't have gone on before. Like, it was almost like hate was almost normalized. So I'm scared to see what that's like, where we're not necessarily like in my high school bubble, in my hometown. It's like everyone coming from different places, and it's kind of weird because you get to see where people's viewpoints are after an election, because a lot of people like take pride in that.
I think this election's getting a lot more emotionally charged than I feel like most have been portrayed to be. So it's kind of like, it's almost as if you choose one side, then you must believe these things. And if you choose this side, you must believe these things, And it's not like, it doesn't feel like one side is listening to the other and nor the other way around. So I'm sure you remember when Trump got into presidency. Like, I was in the military at the time, and I'm just like, Commander-in-Chief, that's what it is. This is what we got to do right now. So that's, as far as my opinions on it, I'm just kind of waiting to see.
I think it's important. We spend a lot of time telling people to vote, right? But we don't talk about the why people should vote. And we don't talk about for what people are voting. The President of the United States, whoever that is, will be able to appoint people to the Supreme Court. That role will last beyond our lives. And so it's about thinking about where we are now, but where do we want to go? What are our values? What are we willing to accept? What are we willing to say? People have been marching for 50 years. They've been protesting for 30 years. What have we gotten out of that? And I think that's a conversation that we need to have, because you all are voting or living in a year that's not just an election year. We're also battling dual pandemics of COVID-19 and racism, of people taking to the streets to say that's unacceptable. So what's your role in that? How does that complicate things? How does COVID-19 help us understand why it's important not just to vote in a presidential election, but at the local and state level? Because those are the people that decide whether you can come back to campus, or whether your parents will have access to jobs, or whether you'll have an access to a job after you graduate. And often in this country, it's young people who, as you said, aren't voting, but will inherit whatever we vote for today.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you said is that even if you don't vote, you still live with the results of the vote, right? Like you can't avoid it, right? So it's not like when you say I didn't vote, that makes you immune to what's going to happen around you. It's not. And so, is this going to be your first time voting? I mean, I don't know how old y'all are, but what types of pressures are you feeling? What's swirling around for you as everyone is pressuring you to vote, and now you have that opportunity?
Since this is my first time voting and my first time with the process, I'm just curious. Like, does my vote actually count? Does my vote actually make a difference? And I think that's something that I've been kind of just trying to understand a little bit more, and I'm interested to see, an older perspective in terms of, like, does my vote make a difference?
It reminds me of 2016, in which neither candidate seems extraordinarily appealing. and having to pick the lesser of the two evils. And while one choice seems inherently and morally wrong, so does the other.
So I teach a course called Intro to American Politics. And the very first day I tell students, I'm not here to tell you how to think, I'm here to challenge you to think. So if you feel like you have to choose between the lesser of two evils, ask why. Why is that the case? And that's structural. Why is it that in the state of Texas, for example, I can show my gun ID that I got at Walmart to show that I'm a registered gun owner in order to vote, but I can't show my student ID from Prairie View A&M University, which is a state university and has the same level of oversight? Why is it that after this Supreme Court decision, thousands of polling places have been closed across this country? Why is it that they are predominantly in areas where people are either lower income, working class, or people of color? And so then it's easier to understand why our choices are so limited, why it takes so much money in order to be viewed as a viable candidate. I'm concerned about the future of our country in the sense of who will our leaders be? Do you all see yourselves as public leaders, as political leaders, as public servants? And if not, why? Because many people have become so disenchanted by what they see, that it's not about a conversation or engagement to many young people, it's about sound bites and who can get the most snarky comment that'll be the lead on the news or be a tweet that will go viral. And what we see in politics is a reflection of what we're seeing in our society overall. What gives me hope, however, in terms of what I hear from young people, what I'm seeing, is that you all are not willing to accept the status quo or just because we've always done things that way.